Welcome to Let's Talk Special. I am your host, Brittany Major. Today we have Anna with us, and she is going to talk about what she's doing right now to bring adaptive equipment and toys into mainstream stores. So thank you, Anna, so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. We're so excited. I've always loved being part of our Hypotonia group on Facebook and seeing all the amazing things that come out of doing, the love for our children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you have some exciting stuff going on right now. A couple weeks ago, you had shared with the group that you're kind of in the next level for bringing your adaptive walker into mainstream stores. So can you kind of explain to the audience what you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, so I started a company, Darling June, and that was in October 2018. And it was sparked by the need for a pediatric walker for my daughter who has hypotonia. She does not have a diagnosis despite thorough genetic testing and neurological and all sorts of studies. So, our walker wasn't approved by insurance. And then the ones that were available, we did receive one via as a hand-me-down on social media. But the ones that were available were just like only perpetuated the stigma and isolation that the current options on the market do for our children and really don't function the way they need them to. So I set out to design a pediatric walker for my daughter, Serena. But the further I got, I realized that was kind of 80% the way there for other children. And how could I just stop and get one made for Serena when all these other people need them and try and jump through the same hoops as us? So I started the company initially to increase mobility access to children with special needs, but it's kind of now dovetailed into this larger company. And what we do is design and patent products that we develop for children with special needs and then partner with consumer brands to bring them to mainstream retail. So our first product, the walker, we were issued the patent the other week, and we have the walker with us here from China, from our factory. And we're just doing some final testing on it, making some tweaks before we can put in those mass production orders. So it's really exciting. And a stroller company will be selling it here in the US, and then the factory will be selling it to other countries.
That's so exciting. I know for a lot of parents, that has been one of my biggest disappointments, I guess, when it comes to inclusion with our kids. And I think that we're really at a good turning point in society where we're starting to think about this stuff of our kids need to be included as well. So I cannot thank you so much for taking these steps to making sure that you're advocating for our children and creating, this avenue for our kids to where we can go into the stores and pick up equipment just like, typical children. So I think that is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, it's like a mother, I say thank you, but it's also like not even a choice at this point. We all do what we have to do. And for some of us, it looks different. For me, this happens to be what I ended up having to do. But you're right about those conversations and the timing. It's the world is ready to listen. Diversity and inclusion is everywhere, and companies not only just kind of make these products now and have them somewhere in a back catalog or somewhere on the internet. They are showcasing people with special needs. Yeah. They are making it a part of their mission. And it's so exciting. We're so excited to be part of that wave because representation does matter. I don't know if you've seen like the picture of children, parents taking pictures of their children, seeing a child in a walker, that's above the clothes at Target. But it's such an emotional moment for all of us to have our children see themselves represented. And, I heard this commercial the other day, and it was like, how can you ever picture yourself as the hero if the hero never looks like you? And so now we're creating those heroes that don't necessarily look like me or you. And so everybody has the option to become everything they have the right and should be.
And thank you for bringing that up. We have a blended family. So my husband is Black, I'm white, and our daughter, she actually had a birthday party, and she wanted a princess sleepover theme. And, I was telling her she's a princess, and she made a comment. She said, "Mommy, I'm not a princess." I said, "Well, why are you not?" She said, "Because I don't have hair like you."
Mm.
So we made a point to reach out to family, friends that were going to be involved sending gifts, letting them know, we need you to send princesses that look like our daughter, Ada. Same goes with our son. He's disabled and he's a Black child. So I appreciate you bringing that up, because it's so important. We're focusing on different nationalities. We also want to include our special needs children, of they can be superheroes as well. And I love seeing all those ads, the commercials. I see a lot of the cartoons now also including children that have special needs, either a wheelchair or, crutches or whatever it may be. So thank you so much for, saying that, because that's so true. That's exactly what we need right now.
Yeah. And I think about it. At first I thought about it just for Serena, and so we could think about it for Serena and Major. They see themselves represented. But then you think about it too, like Emma's big sister is typically developing, and she's like always been ahead of all of her milestones. But now on her dolls, I sent you some pictures on her dolls.
Yeah.
She builds like braces on their legs, and she's like, "Mom, how come no dolls have braces?" And she put hearing aids in with like the silly putty and Play-Doh. So it's how we are shaping the world for everyone. And so our other children, siblings and people who are not necessarily affected by this are starting to ask those questions, and they picture heroes differently.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they ask the questions, and so that's always kind of been a challenge for me, is like, what does our situation and Serena's special needs, how does that impact her sister? And it's beautiful to see those moments when like Emma puts the little girl in a wheelchair on the skateboard and does all these tricks. I'm like, great, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and you shared those photos, but I didn't know that was your daughter that was making those. I didn't know if that was something to where you were trying to create a Barbie doll, within mainstream. So that is so cute that she's also recognizing that, hey, I want my Barbie dolls to look like my sister.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you see it come alive and stuff like play, you're realizing, oh, this is now a part of her. And, and then she brings that out into the world, so that when they do see someone different, she can help her friends understand because she's not going to flinch to approach a friend who looks different.
Yep. Aww.
Yeah.
And I actually listened to your podcast that you did, and I'm not sure, when was that podcast that?
The parenting podcast was in the summer, like August. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it was about the walker.
Oh, okay, so that was before all of that. Okay. I know that you had talked about going through a divorce and trying to find different avenues of, I guess, income producing, but also still being an advocate for your daughter. So what was your inspiration for starting your company, Darling June?
Oh, so I was away with the girls. We had like taken a weekend and gone to a beach, and my inspiration was I spent 40 minutes on hold with a walker company to say I needed wheels, because the walker that she had didn't have front wheels. Like, how backwards is that? A child with hypotonia, low stamina, low strength, and core stability is supposed to drag a walker with them. So I spent 40 minutes on hold with them, being transferred here and there, only to find out that the wheels, I was going to have to pay $80 for them. And I'm like, man, like, okay, so I'm fortunate enough to pay $80 for them, but then like, what about everybody else who can't get these wheels and have this walker that their child is so close to mobility? After I received the wheels, they weren't able to go onto the walker. So again, I spent time on hold, and then they said, hey, you know what? Keep the wheels. We discovered that walker has been discontinued without a replacement. Keep the wheels, and we'll refund you the $80. And I was like, man, so this wheel that I paid $80 for, you don't even need. It probably cost 2 something, $2.60 for them to make. But they're charging parents like us who are trying to make it through the day and provide mobility and options to our children, $80. So that was part of it. It was like the lack of any understanding, any customer service. They recommended something in its place, and they sent me to a link. It was for like an elderly walker. And the fact that these things are just so unaffordable, I just started to reach out to people and say, I need to build a walker for Serena, and how do we do that? So I reached out to people in the cycling and stroller industry just through contacts. And then it just snowballed. So that's kind of how it developed. And then I was like, wow, there are all these things in home, school, and play that our children need, even sitting at the dinner table, these simple things that are so impactful. So our second product is in the sleep area. And our third product is in development, but they're just things that we all kind of hack together. And our life is full of hacks. The parallel bars, we're also generous sharing these ideas. But who has the time and who has the money? And, I just went for her wheelchair fitting and asked if we should just tack on the walker because she needs the new size up. And ours wasn't ready. And he said, a couple walker factories closed down in the States, and it's just going to cost so much through insurance. So just go buy one off of Amazon. And I was, how is this system working for us? And I'm thinking of all the people who can't ask those questions or can't get access. So really that was kind of my inspiration. And I'm a nurse. So I am a nurse. I started in 2007. I work for Yale New Haven Health. It's an excellent organization. We do incredible work, but even as a nurse in an organization like that with excellent insurance coverage, I had a difficult time navigating the healthcare system. So again, the system is working against us. It's not Yale's fault. It's it's the country we live in. It's everything, all these systems that it's so difficult for us. So, my mission is to make it easier, and in the process, take away those stigmas. So make stuff that works for us, the kids, the parents, and then takes away the stigma and isolation and really adds in the fun element that all of the other children get to have when they go to pick out a bike, with colors and finishings. So the inspiration was there. The divorce happened to happen right around during the past 2 years. But also that was kind of Serena and Emma were the inspiration behind that. We had been together for 17 years.
Wow.
We had been best friends. We took such good care of each other. And then we had these two incredible girls that know who they are, live life so fully and happily. And we kind of turned to each other and thought, maybe we should be doing the same. We never fought. We were just each other's biggest fans, but not probably the best life partners. And so we decided to co-parent, which we do so well. I'm so grateful for him. We talk every day and strategize with the girls. And, but that was we're just living our truth. And that's how that happened.
Yeah. Well, I cannot thank you enough for speaking out. There was on our support group, I know a lot of us share, hey, we're not using this anymore. Can anybody benefit from it? Yeah. And there was one where they had just put the title of what it was, and it said Hope Car Bed. And I had no idea what a Hope car bed was. So I went on to Google. And if you don't know what it is, it looks like a cooler. It looks like a cooler that has straps, and it's for disabled children that are unable to sit in a standard car seat. So then they lay down in the car seat. And there was a few things that pulled up on Google, which was like $1,500.
Right.
Then there was an actual car bed. I mean, this thing was a Lamborghini. It had LED lights. It had Bluetooth speakers on it. This was the most decked out bed I've ever seen. And it was the same price as this Hope car bed for a disabled child. And you see that so often to where I'll look for something for my child. And as soon as you put in adaptive special needs, the prices just skyrocketed. It's very disheartening. Yeah, it's very disheartening that we live in a society that the special needs community is fully being taken advantage of. And then you're at a disadvantage when it comes to your economic status. You know, if you're more in the lower class, you know, you have all these resources, you have medical benefits, but then they also take away a lot of benefits. Well, this isn't covered, you know, so there's a lot of gives, but then take backs. And then if you're in the middle class, like our family, you know, we're not considered poor, but when you look at these prices of adaptive anything, it's so expensive. And it's like, well, we can't afford that. So no, I don't think that our society is standing up for the special needs community. And I do feel like they're being taken advantage. And I appreciate you dedicating your career to making it to where all of our children are feeling included. Like you said, the joys of picking out your bike and picking out what color. I mean, that's so important for our kids. So you are doing amazing things, Anna.
Thanks. Yeah. It was so amazing when I brought home the first prototype in August 2019. I flew back with it from China. I hate flying. It was a 15-hour flight. Most amazing trip of my life, though. And I remember I was sitting in a coffee shop. I brought it to someone to look at. And this girl kept walking past back and forth, and she was just kept looking at it, and she was a little girl. And I was like, oh my gosh, we've done it. Like, I know the functional stuff is there, but this girl wants to play with it. You know, that's so cool. The walker that Serena currently has, parents always say, like, don't touch that. Or the child is looking at it like, what is that? Because everything is archaic. Even those $1,000 beds, like, it was a cooler, you know, and so beds are big too for me right now because of our second product. But it just looks so institutionalized, a lot of everything that is out there. So seeing, you know, Emma, her big sister, now goes over and hangs out in the walker and like sits down, and I'm like, oh, we've done it. That's a magical moment to have now Serena have something that kids want to play with. It's drawing people in. We also want to give that messaging of like, look and ask and be curious, like keep that curiosity alive and interact with my child. You can see the helmet, over here. Serena had when she was little. I was so put off by how sterile the white helmets were. And so we had this guy, we had an auto body shop create this shrink wrap it in the Dr. Seuss, like the places you'll go helmet. And I just love putting it out because it makes me so happy. And when she had this on, everyone would just stop, smile. And so she got all this feedback. Like, she was an infant, but she got all this feedback. Like, I'm fun, look at me. And so people looked at her, and so she smiled. And that social aspect is just so important. So yeah, and I do dedicate my life to this. It's my daughter, but I also work 9 to 5 for Yale at the health system. And so I spread myself thin, but it's like, how can you walk away from something that has to be done?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, you know, I feel like a lot of us parents have such a huge advantage, because sometimes I look at things and I'm like, who created this? Did they have a special needs child? Do they even know how this? Because it just doesn't function well for our kids. And we see our kids every single day. We know exactly what they need and how we can tweak these little toys, because that's, for me, I feel like that's all that needs to be done. Right. We need to do a little bit of fine tweaking to certain toys out there to include our children as well. And I love that your daughter got so much excitement from that helmet, because white, you know, let's spice it up a little bit. Major, he has a stander. He loves it when his sister is standing in front of him, because he gets so excited when he's in that stander, and she gets excited. And like you said, I mean, she'll try to play with it. And I'm like, oh my God, that thing's like $11,000. Let's not break that. But, you know, creating more affordable things to where, you know, I want her to feel comfortable being involved with his stander too. And what was cute is last week she said, Mom, can I help you take him out? And I was like, yes, absolutely. Like, I would love that. So I showed her how to take him out of the stander. Of course, I carried him because she's only 4 years old, but she did all the straps and everything. And I just love including her in his development. He gets excited, she gets excited. So yeah, it's super important to make sure typical children and atypical children are united together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's hard. I've always felt like, how do you do that without becoming like I don't know, like the word advocate just sometimes scares me, because I'm like, oh, well, if I say that, then, and like if I say like let's include, like make sure to include, like I feel like those are words that in the past people have really like kind of like either cringed or gotten defensive about, but people seem to be really open and to learning and understanding right now, which is beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I think we're at this turning point where I've even had some moms say, you know, I don't have special needs kids, but I want to watch this show because I want to see what it's like to be a mom of a child that has special needs.
Yeah.
So even adults are starting, you know, to get in there and be like, I want to be involved. I want to know what it's like. And I talked about it last episode of how our friends really try to be there for us. I think, you know, I've been friends with I have my little group of girls. We've been friends since high school, you know, 20 years we've been friends, and we're extremely close, but there is that disconnect. But I don't think that they can fully understand what it's like. So I love the fact that they're so interested in wanting to get to know what life is like for other moms like us.
Yeah,
So,
and I think part of our responsibility too, and I've gone back and forth about this because I know it's also relevant with racial issues right now, and that like, you know, it's not necessarily the affected population's responsibility to teach the unaffected. The easy example is all the racial issues that have been going on this past year. Like I, as a white female, have had to become very educated in the things that have not historically affected me. But I do look to my friends of color for certain questions and guidance. And you know, so I've thought about that from a special needs perspective. And I do think, you know, so people have said, okay, so if you want me to ask questions, you know, how would you recommend that I approach a mom or a child? What do I tell my kids about a kid in a walker, or who might have like a breathing tube or something? And so I think it is partially our responsibility to say, like, to provide that language to them and kind of help them understand how they can interact, because we have been brought up in a culture that is like, don't ask, don't stare, don't, you know, so if we're doing that, then how can we really guide our children? And I think sometimes following our children's lead is the best, because they're kind and they ask from a place of curiosity. And so what I haven't really come up with a lot of language to provide people. And I think that's part of my darling June's responsibility too, about our like, look, listen, ask. But yeah, I think for now, I kind of just watch children and try and learn from them.
yeah, children are just absolute. They amaze me. I have my friend Katie, very close, very understanding. She has made it her goal to teach her kids to include Major, because they'll come over for play dates and they just see Major as one of them, you know, because they've grown up with him. And I know it, like you had stated, it's hard. Do we give our voice? You know, is it their responsibility to understand ours? I just, like you said, we grew up in this environment where it's like, don't say anything. Don't ask questions.
No one's different.
And,
yeah.
Yeah. And I've come to a point where I'm like, okay, I just want to break those barriers.
Yeah.
I want to call out the elephant in the room. I want to educate you, because I know from me in my past, when I was around somebody that had special needs or a child, I didn't feel comfortable bringing up. I didn't want to offend anybody. So I just wanted to kind of break that awkwardness for them.
Yes.
Like, okay, this is my situation. Feel free to ask any questions, because I'm an open book. I want you to understand, instead of you not understanding and maybe not speaking up because you don't want to say something offensive, or, you know, you don't want to pry, you know, because some people want to be private about it. But as our kids get older, it's apparent that there's delays. And I do want to create that open door policy of, please feel welcome to ask any questions that you have.
Right. And I do recognize, though, that that's how you feel, that's how I
Yeah.
feel, but I don't,
Not everybody.
right, not everybody feels that, and that's fine.
Mhm.
It's not necessarily their responsibility. So that's where, again, I'm like, oh, well, if I suggest certain language, that might not be okay to, like, even some of my close friends, they parent in a different way, and
Yeah.
that question might be offensive. So it's all,
Mhm.
it's kind of tricky, but I'm with you. I share your kind of outlook and how I talk about it.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up because everybody has different comfort levels.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, as we talked, you had mentioned, you know, you watched the episode of Growing with the Graphs.
Yeah.
Of everybody is in different processes of their grieving, or you know, they're maybe just not at that comfortable stage, and there's nothing wrong with that. I wasn't in the beginning. I didn't want to talk about it. When people brought it up, I was like, can we just move on to a different topic? You know, because I just wasn't at that comfort level at that point. So you're right. Not everybody is there, or they may not even get there. Maybe they're just more of a private person. So just respecting those boundaries that everyone has is very important.
Yeah, I thought that was, I told you, but I thought that was a really great part of the Growing with the Graphs episode of yours, because I just, I related to the mom, I related to both parents. I was at both points at different times, but especially her, just like for a while in our Hypotonia group, I didn't even, like, I was a silent partner. I was like looking to see, and sometimes I couldn't look. And now it's such a different experience for me. But yeah, we're all at different, it takes us all time and it can look differently.
Mm-hmm. And you had mentioned earlier that you have something coming out when it comes to beds. You shared a photo with me. Can you explain what your next kind of journey is when it comes to adaptive beds?
Yes. So the picture I shared with you is a bunch of lumber that we purchased from Home Depot, Serena's dad. It was about $400 worth of lumber. Again, like Growing with the Graphs, you think, oh, it's a couple of hinges, a couple of pieces, and then it just like piles up, and it turns out to be as expensive as a bed. But so that's what we rigged up for her, and it was to keep her safe, to keep her enclosed, but to keep her being able to move around. And Serena requires a lot of like physical feedback. We've tried compression sheets, but ultimately, like, we end up putting her to sleep by sleeping, you know, by cuddling her, and giving her that physical feedback. And I had to do like Mission Impossible moves to get out of the bed at the end. I was creeping out, and then bedtime would start over if there was one crack from me or the bed. And, you know, our bodies deteriorate so much, and I do my best to stay strong to be able to care and carry her. But yeah, it just became impossible. Bedtime is so hard. She's 5, still not sleeping through the night. And so my friend and business partner in developing our next product, she was like, you need to sleep. What you do every night, it's helpful to have somebody who's close enough but also removed. So she's like, this is insane. What you do every night is so difficult. People don't do this. And we need to get you sleeping. We need to get Serena sleeping. And so what if you show it, it opens as a latch or as a door at the foot of the bed. It allows me to get out. It allows Serena it's tall enough so she can stand up and not fall over the rail, because I could never find a rail tall enough. Her mattress is essentially on the floor. And we heard from the community, like her physical therapist, some people even put screen doors on the bedroom door, or and just like childproof everything in there in case their child gets out of bed. In Serena's case, she would be rolling out of bed and there'd be falling and injuries. So that was the safest and cutest option. Again, we wanted to make it appealing and not seem, it's basically like a large pack and play. But for the bed mechanism, we really wanted it to be something that would look like a normal bed during the day. So their peers, you know, and siblings, when people come through our house, it's like, if they see her bedroom, I have to provide an explanation for that bed. Because otherwise, you know, it doesn't look like a typical bed. And so, but it allows you to get out of the bed and to keep your child safe. There are details I can't reveal because the patent is pending, but we're so excited to release it to the community and get the feedback, and hear what everyone thinks. So far, we've had, you know, physicians at Yale who've endorsed, who are excited to endorse both products because of what it does for what it could do for their patients who they know struggle with sleep.
Yeah, I've been on a journey. I saw that bed and I was like, that bed is so awesome. And I see a lot of parents share them. They are pretty expensive. Some of the beds that they have are, I've looked them up and I was like, ooh, it's a high price ticket. It was probably about, I want to say like a month and a half ago. Our son he has pretty severe hypotonia, but he's a very determined little man, just like all of our kids. They surprise us all the time. And he's been very active. As soon as he's almost about to be 2, and it's like we've seen this huge change in him. I'm like, who's this little kid who didn't want to do any therapy at all? And now he's like, I want to try to climb up the stairs. I want to try to climb over everything. So there was a morning where he was very fussy, and I was like, okay. I looked at the baby monitor and I was like, okay, he's fine. Try to get him to go back to sleep because it was like 5:30 in the morning. I'm like, I'm not waking up right now.
Yeah.
So it went from just like a kind of a whine to he's now screaming hysterically. So I didn't even look on the monitor. I just bolted it up the stairs because I was like, what's going on? And when I came over the edge of the crib, there was blood everywhere.
Oh.
I mean, it was something a parent never ever wants to see. And I was trying to figure out, like, where did the blood come from? It was so much that I had to throw him in the bath. And I was talking because he does a lot of movements. I was like, I wonder if he hit his head, on the side of the rail. Well, the next morning he woke up and I was like, let me just kind of watch him. So I watched him on the baby monitor. He was trying to climb out of his bed.
Wow.
And so now I'm like, that's how he got hurt. I saw him reaching at the top bars, pulling, and then he'd fall. So I was like, that's exactly. So I ran upstairs before, he got injured again. And that's when we decided, okay, crib's gone. Crib is no longer safe.
Yeah.
So creating those safe sleep, situations for our kids is so important. And we're huge on independence.
Yes.
Major gets very frustrated when his independence is taken away from him or he can't do something. So we went on a search and I was trying to find the right bed. And it's hard. It's very, very hard to find the right bed for your child. And for us, we decided, like you said, the mattress on the floor.
Yep.
And our kids don't want a mattress on the floor. My daughter, she wants something cute and fun. And
right.
So thankfully I was able to find a Montessori bed. It was like a house.
Cool. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But we didn't want any railings because I was like, I don't want him trying to climb over the railings because, like you said, some of those railings, you couldn't find any that were tall enough.
Right.
And when they're at a certain level, that can be dangerous for our kids.
Right. Yeah.
So there's no railings. It just looks like a little house. He loves it. Yeah. We put little, his theme for his bedroom's Winnie the Pooh. So we put these like little bumblebee lights on the top, and the excitement in his face when he saw his room, when I put it together, was everything. Like, I don't want to get emotional, but
I know, but it is.
He was so, so excited. He was just like laughing and moving all over the place. And our daughter came in and she was like, oh, I want this for my bed. So it's just like creating that excitement around, like, you have an awesome bedroom. This is an awesome bed. So some people don't see like a bed as a big deal, but it is for our kids. It really is.
It is. And for every product, we always see what's out in the market first. And I was like astounded to see what options exist. And they're like $5,000 to $8,000 to put your child into something that you don't want anyone to see that you're putting them into it. Or, or they look like cages, or and like, no judgment. Like, if anybody on here watching it has it, like, these are the options we have available. Like, it's okay to know that you're doing the best you can for your child. Yeah. This is what we have to give them. There are other options, and you can get them from $8,000 to $5,000 maybe with some grants. And I'm sorry, I'm not sitting around writing grants for one of the many things Serena needs. So it's good to share these tricks of the trade. I love seeing how everybody posts what they have. I posted the bed when we made it. it's just, yeah, but to also see his sister so excited, that's just the magic of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, now she wants one. Like, no, because I painted her whole bedroom set. Like a lot
Yeah.
of work went into that bedroom set. So
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
no,
You
you
were
have an
like,
awesome,
yeah.
yeah, you have an awesome bed. But when you had stated, no judgment on anybody because these are
Right.
what doctors, therapists, everything are recommending.
Right.
And for some people, it is the safer option for their child. But I was going through the photos and my daughter said, "Why is he in a cage?" I said, "That's not a cage, honey." But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you think of
Yeah.
it from their perspective of how do they feel being put into that,
Right. And for the walker, we're covering basically in this model, we're covering what we know of Serena's needs and some of her peers who have like cerebral palsy, some spasticity, some hypotonia, hypertonia. But we're also thinking for the accessories, like everything has accessories. Strollers have
Yeah.
accessories. So like, what can we offer for the child who has an IV or who has a G tube? Like how can we consider that and still keep it fun and like interactive and not medical, but like, it's hard to hit everyone's needs. But those are the kinds of things we think about as like the things we don't yet understand.
Yeah. And you had stated in the beginning, the walker that she did have didn't have any wheels on the front. And it's like, well, it's hard enough for our kids, to get around, let alone lifting up a walker, in the front to get moving. So yeah, finding those ways that are going to work for our kids. And everybody has different severities to the condition.
Yeah.
So, you can't tailor one thing towards everyone, but I feel like you're doing a really good job of trying to make it, for, I hate saying the mainstream. I want to try to use a different word, but, for the majority of kids that are disabled, I looked at the walker and I was like, that is so awesome. And I understand that you guys are trying to make it at an affordability price point, right?
Yes. And then even seeing what someone shared this past week on our Hypotonia group, that their Billy shoes, they got covered by insurance. Like, well, that's incredible. I mean,
yeah, I didn't know that.
We want to make it available, visible in mainstream retail, but we also want to take on insurance and make it, get it covered. So that is another part of our work and our mission. So we'll work on that. Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people, we have deductibles to meet, but if you can, anything that you can run through insurance, even if you have to pay that deductible, it's going towards your out-of-pocket expenses.
Right, that you're going to have to pay anyways. I know.
Yes.
It's so much. It's so much. Yeah, so we're trying to load that way. And it has been enlightening to understand how much it really does cost. And now with everything in the past years, like year to two, the price of everything going up and COVID and just, so I think I will be disappointed at that it's not just like so cheap, but at least I have a better understanding of why. And when I think of it being comparable to the other prices, it's apples and oranges when you look at the functionality and what this will do for the child versus everything our child has to do to be able to use the existing options.
Yeah. It's right now we don't have a good option for our son as far as a walker, and our prayer is one day he'll be in that walker. I'll share something, but when we first started having that conversation of, is a stander the best option or is a gait trainer going to be the best option for him? I was that parent that was very ignorant to what a stander and a gait trainer was trying to accomplish.
Sure.
And I immediately was like, gait trainer, because I saw that stander as, and this is my perception because I wasn't aware of how much it was actually going to help him. But I saw it as, is this a failure for us? If we put him in a stander, does this mean that we're failing?
Right.
And it doesn't. It does not at all. They brought the gait trainer, they brought the stander. We tried out both of them. We tried out the gait trainer because I was like, gait trainer, gait trainer. I thought for sure gait trainer was going to be the avenue for us. And then I saw him in it. And immediately I was like, he's not comfortable in this gait trainer. It was very, very bulky. Huge, very heavy. And I was like, there's no way that he's going to be able to learn to walk in this. Because his tone is so low that I was very, very disappointed in the layout of this gait trainer because I don't feel like it was good for him. I didn't feel like it was, and other kids are different. I'm talking about just for Major and his tone and his strength. So I was very disappointed. And, I said, you know what, the gait trainer's not for him. We put him in the stander and like my heart just like, oh, it exploded. He was so excited to be in the stander. The first time he was able to like move his upper extremities to where everything, laying down, he just wasn't moving his arms the way that he is supposed to be moving his arms. So as soon as I saw him in that, I was like, this is the right thing for our son. We've noticed a huge difference with his strength being in that stander. So, but to your point of just making sure that all these things are accessible for our children, I feel like something a little bit more lightweight for our son might benefit him. So I'm really excited to see, your stander and have it released and in stores and see how that helps other kids.
Yeah, so are we. I'm really excited. And it's with aesthetic and materials that we're familiar with. Strollers don't have exposed screws and sharp edges. They have soft plastic, good wheels that don't give a baby who's in it all this like feedback and shaking like they do. So like, why aren't we using good wheels? And, is it really a price thing or have people just not looked at it? And I think it really truly is. People have neglected to look at our children's needs for a long time.
Yeah. Well, no more, because I feel like a lot of parents, I'm seeing these parents, they're becoming innovators, they're becoming business owners, and we're trying to include our children. We're trying to get people to understand we are here too. Stop ignoring us, make things affordable for us, but also make it to where it works for us.
Yes.
So I really enjoyed our conversation today. I know that you started your company in 2018. You've already done amazing things. I'm excited to hear about the other 2 products that are coming out and get to see some of those photos. But the walker, congratulations that you're on your next step to getting that walker into mainstream stores. That's so exciting.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been incredible. I'm so excited that you have this channel. It's been a resource for me. And once again, just feeling like our community is wrapping its arms around all of us.
Yes, the conversations that we've had on this show are absolutely amazing. I'm glad that you got some insight from some of the shows that you watched before. I know that the information that you gave is going to excite a lot of parents out there. It's just a great conversation, and I cannot thank you so much for taking that time out of your day to talk with us.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me. And if people are interested in more information, we can be found at on Instagram. We have our that's kind of how we feed information out, but it's Darling June PBC. It's Darling June was named after my girls, Serena Darling and Emma June. That's where you can find us. And then on my personal page, if you're interested, but happy to share and happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, you have a great rest of your day, and I will definitely keep in touch.
Okay, take care.